Hello Sindhu.
Hey.
Yeah, welcome to our growth series. In this, we'll be primarily talking about growth which is driven through product. Recently, there's a lot of fuss about product-led growth, and people are talking about product-led growth. There was one video that came out recently where this guy gave an example of how a sutta will be or a cigarette will be. Let's say people generally wait till 10 a.m. for shops to open.
Is it Abhishek Patil?
Yeah.
Okay. It's on LinkedIn, right? Yeah, I also saw that.
So there was this example, which I couldn't relate too much because I don't smoke, and we don't promote smoking though. So then I actually went ahead and looked into YouTube and searched for growth from product. Let's say I specifically searched for product-led growth. So there was this video that came up by Alex.
Alex is
Shulitz, yeah.
Facebook wala.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So one thing that he was constantly talking about was retention and beating the benchmarks of those. So what's your thought? What exactly is growth?
Okay. What did you get out of that video? Okay, you saw the Stanford wala video. Okay, kaun sa wala? Stanford wala.
Yes.
Can you just tell me any two takeaways of that video so that I can accumulate my thoughts accordingly?
Sure. So this guy was talking about, let's say you have a product, either it's an MVP, and now you want to market that product. And in the initial 2,000-3,000 users, you'll be able to figure out how your product is performing. Let's say there is, after day 3 or day 4, there is significant drop in usage.
Right.
So one is, you now in different industries there are different benchmarks. So considering those benchmarks and where your product lies, you have to figure out those numbers. And you have to figure out what is actually making users stick to your product.
Correct.
So figuring out stickiness and beating the benchmarks were the two takeaways.
Got it. It's a vast topic actually. Let me try to simplify and cut short as much as I can. तो पहला चीज ये है that not every product will have same amount of stickiness. So the first thing for a founder or a PM or a growth person is to decide, is my product lies in high frequency, mid frequency, low frequency. These terminologies are an industry terminologies in Silicon Valley. India में आया नहीं है, which is if you have to put a quadrant and say, okay, what are those high frequency products? High frequency products is nothing but in typical term, you have your app launches. Now the products which can have more app launches per day means high frequency products.
What are such products?
For an example, highest frequency is your WhatsApp, like highest to highest. Right. Followed by your Instagram. In that quadrant, your Facebook will be the lowest frequency. Because if you take D1, your Facebook may not be D1, but your Facebook may be D5. 5 दिन में एक बार खोल रहे होगे. We are talking about different cohort of user. We are not lying in that segment. But first of all, the main task is that. Because if you don't have the right benchmark, so what you will be doing is if you are building, let's say, a real estate app, like for an example, No Broker, or let's say housing.com, it's foolish if you start comparing कि यार Instagram का इतना ज़्यादा क्यों है, OTT platforms का इतना ज़्यादा
and same applies to healthcare apps as well.
Exactly. How do you find that? That's a pretty tricky question, and I have been reading a lot about it. Reforge has an interesting blog, I guess, written by Ravi, I guess, about high frequency, low frequency, and mid frequency. One is, how do you figure out your product should lie where? Okay. Second is, how do you figure out your product should have how much retention? The tricky part that is mentioned there does not apply in Indian context. मैं Indian context का बोल लेता हूँ. Indian context में scene क्या है? In US market, if a product is getting built, if there are 100 users, there will be at least 97 homogeneous users. If 97 people are homogeneous, then your retention is already nice.
Sorted, yeah.
In India, it's a super duper heterogeneous area. Even if you get 5 people and you define your users being ki, okay, my users are 23 to 35, living in this, eating this, khatam. But no, the complexities are even more higher if that person is, the complexities are like this, that if the person is right now going to college, the behavior of opening the app is different. If the person is still doing online education, it's different. If the person is has completed everything and went out, which is abroad, it is different.
Yep.
Your product will still show that everything is same until unless you deep dive.
Yep.
So in India, what happens? there is nothing called as overall retention. There is cohort based retention
True.
primarily.
Yep.
And that's what I generally feel that a lot of people don't do. मतलब generally if you see people talking about okay app का retention कितना है, I don't think that's the right approach. आपके app के dormant users का retention कितना है, dead users का कितना है, dead users living in let's say metro cities कितना है, dead users who are
Yeah.
paid let's say कितना है and all, which is segmentation basically. Now after you know what are your cohorts and what is the right retention that you are looking for, and there is no right logic. My logic is simple, that launch the app, look for the past 30 days data. Your data will tell you okay,
True.
what is the right retention, what is the right time